your mind.
Good evening. Welcome to Cult Free Radio. I am your usual host, Mad Sweeney, and tonight is the first Cult Free Radio Christmas, or if you prefer, holiday special. On tonight's show, our special guest host, Anondude2, who you may know from YouTube, will discuss the Watchtower, Jehovah's Witnesses, and holidays, specifically Christmas. And I, Mad Sweeney, will sing some Christmas and holiday tunes of the season for you as well. After Anondude2 presents his portion of the show, I'll give some of my thoughts on his presentation, on the Watchtower's strict control of its members regarding holidays, and what purpose it serves to the organization. And then we'll play some more music and call it a night. So now, without further ado, here's our special guest host. Let's welcome Anondude2.
I thought long and hard how to approach this broadcast. This is the first year that I've ever had the opportunity to celebrate Christmas. Growing up as the child of a Jehovah's Witness, I was almost always miserable during what was supposed to be the happiest time of the year. While all the other children would enjoy themselves, I would sit alone in my empty house, devoid of joy or even simple satisfaction. I remember I would look out the window of my house on Christmas Day and watch the snow glisten softly as the flames of hearty campfires danced across its surface. I recall being filled with an incredible sense of sadness and conflict. Any Jehovah's Witness or ex-Jehovah's Witness is intimately familiar with the emotions I'm referring to. I could approach this broadcast with rage and resentment over my lost childhood, over my many, many missed Christmases, but that wouldn't really be right, now would it? Christmas time is a time to extend goodwill towards all men. So why should I carry my resentment with me to spoil yet another Christmas, my first Christmas, no less? I will discuss my ideas, but I'll do so lovingly and in a spirit of good cheer. I present to you now the Anondude2 Christmas Special. I hope you enjoy it. Well, now that we've got that taken care of, why don't we get down to business? Each year, as Christians around the world gear up for a season of good cheer, a time to be grateful for family and friends, and look forward to a period of long-awaited rest. Well, Jehovah's Witnesses are gearing up for their work as well. Imagine, if you will, and this is probably happening as we speak, somewhere somebody is shopping, or maybe they're traveling to meet family, and they stop and make small talk at the gas station or in the checkout lane. They might say something like, "I can't wait to see my family. I've been looking forward to Christmas all year." Or maybe they'll say something like, "I'm getting something special for the kids. They're really looking forward to their presents, and I want to make this season special for them." Now, if they're lucky, they're going to meet somebody who's equally enthusiastic and full of good cheer. If it maybe just isn't their day, they're just going to meet somebody who's not up for small talk. But if they're really, really, really unlucky, they'll meet a Jehovah's Witness who will proudly declare to them,
I don't celebrate pagan holidays.
and they'll proceed to explain all the reasons why Christmas isn't for Christians. At best, the merry soul who tried to make conversation will take it with a grain of salt and move on with their day. At worst, it will put them in an extremely bad and irritable mood for the rest of the day. But in either case, the Jehovah's Witness made their mark. I ask you, though, is their reasoning sound? Do pagan origins alone rule out the celebration of Christmas or any other holiday for that matter? Where does conscience come into play? What does the Watchtower have to say? Well, we'll be covering these questions and many others as we discuss the subject. And actually, we'll be opening up with the Watchtower. The Watchtower of 2002, the 715 edition, page 22, has this to say. Those walking in truth avoid unscriptural observances because light has no sharing with darkness. For instance, they do not celebrate Christmas, held on December 25th. No one knows the exact date of Christ's birth, admits the World Book Encyclopedia. The Encyclopedia Americana, 1956 edition, says, Saturnalia, a Roman feast celebrated in mid-December, provided the model for many of the merrymaking customs of Christmas. M. Clintlock and Strong's Cyclopedia notes, the observances of Christmas is not of divine appointment, nor is it of New Testament origin. And the book, Daily Life in Time of Jesus, observes, the flocks pass the winter under cover, and from this alone it may be seen that the traditional date for Christmas, in winter, is unlikely to be right, since the Gospel says that the shepherds were in the fields. The facts, seem to point indisputably that Christmas is indeed an outgrowth of pagan customs and celebrations. I'm not here to argue that. Most scholars will agree on this point. However, is it really the case that Jehovah's Witnesses, true Christians, as they would postulate themselves to be in this article, is it really true that they avoid all unscriptural observances or even all pagan observances? Well, in a word, no. You see, most Jehovah's Witnesses that I know celebrated weddings. All right, now one might assume initially that this celebration isn't exactly pagan. The institution of marriage was, after all, one initiated by God. However, the wedding ring that at least most Western Jehovah's Witnesses wear is a very pagan construct. Let me explain. The ring, of course, is a circle that was the symbol of eternity for the Egyptians as well as many other ancient cultures. It has no beginning and no end, like time. It returns to itself, like life, and the shape was worshipped in the form of the sun and the moon. The hole in the center of the ring is not just space either. It's actually important in its own right as the symbol of the gateway or door leading to things and events both known and unknown. Now, that sounds pretty pagan, doesn't it? And you Jehovah's Witnesses who are hopefully listening to this broadcast, I would encourage you to do more research on the origin of the wedding ring. And, if you still feel Watchtower Corporation is right, then by all means, feel free to pawn those wedding rings and donate the proceeds to the contribution box as atonement for the sin of bearing those pagan symbols on your fingers. And if you see any other witnesses who choose to wear those pagan wedding rings, be sure to tell them immediately so they too can toss them into the gutter. But in all seriousness, I hope you don't take offense to this. I'm not doing it to be mean. I'm simply trying to illustrate a point. Going further, though, the pagan aspects of weddings don't end on your finger. Actually, even the wedding gown itself has a tainted history. According to Carly Roney in the Knot Book of Wedding Gowns, in 1840 came Queen Victoria in her all-white bridal ensemble. Her rich white satin gown was adorned with orange blossoms and had an 18-foot train, which she carried over her arm. On her head, she wore a matching wreath of blossoms entwined with diamonds and a veil of Honosian lace. She was immediately heralded for her grace and beauty, and was ultimately responsible for establishing the white, worn only once gown as the Western wedding day ideal. When Queen Victoria's wedding photographs were published, lots of women wanted to emulate her. It was perceived as a sign of wealth and class, not only to purchase an expensive white gown, but to only wear it once. Regarding the choice of color, the Queen herself, and the era she lived in, valued the ideal of female sexual purity and associated this trait with the color white. If you ask me, this tradition and the way it's celebrated seems particularly vain. Is this a tradition that a Jehovah's Witness would want to engage in? Well, if they held wedding celebrations to the same standards that they hold Christmas, I should say that they wouldn't. And yet they do. Of course, there are other unscriptural celebrations that many witnesses indulge in. Anniversaries come to mind. Really, though, when you come down to it, when you examine the history of mankind, you quickly find that most of our cultures, not to mention our medical and scientific advancements, are owed to early pagans, as witnesses love to call our ancestors for some reason. But the point being, superstitious alchemists, astrologers, heathens, drunks, divinators, and other rabble, through their misguided practices, spawned much of the basis for civilization as we know it. So, is a Christian expected to deny themselves the benefits of culture or modern technology and medicine in order to remain clean in the eyes of God? Well, if one follows the principles outlined by Watchtower Corporation, then probably so. But logically speaking, this is ridiculous. So there must be another way. And that is where the divinely endowed conscience comes into play. The Christian principle of love, an ideal, by the way, that Jesus was a proponent of, will help guide us in our actions. A rigid conformity to rules, look, it's never going to bring you closer to Jehovah. A perfunctory performance of mundane activities brings you no closer to God than eating ice cream brings you closer to a cow. Paul had a similar controversy in the first century, and while I sometimes disagree with Paul, this account illustrates it best. You'll find it at 1 Corinthians 8 and then verses 4 to 13. Now, concerning the eating of foods offered to idols, we know that an idol is nothing in the world, and that there is no God but one. For even though there are those who are called gods, whether in heaven or on earth, just as there are many gods and many lords, there is actually to us one God, the Father, of whom all things are, and we for him. And there is one Lord, Jesus Christ, through whom all things are, and we through him. Nevertheless, there is not this knowledge in all persons, but some, being accustomed until now to the idol, eat food as something sacrificed to an idol, and their conscience, being weak, is defiled. But food will not commend us to God. If we do not eat, we do not fall short, and if we eat, we have no credit to ourselves. But keep watching that this authority of yours does not somehow become a stumbling block to those who are weak. For if anyone should see you, the one having knowledge, reclining at a meal in an idol temple, will not the conscience of that one who is weak be built up to the point of eating foods offered to idols? Really, by your knowledge, the man that is weak is being ruined, your brother for whose sake Christ died. But when you people thus sin against your brothers, and wound their conscience that is weak, you are sinning against Christ. Therefore, if food makes my brother stumble, I will never eat flesh at all, that I may not make my brother stumble. If you would, go back again and focus on that key statement found in verse 8. But food will not commend us to God. If we do not eat, we do not fall short, and if we eat, we have no credit to ourselves. I think that one could very easily compare this to the celebration of Christmas. Ask yourself, if I celebrate Christmas with a pure heart, are my actions to be condemned regardless, or vice versa? If I choose not to celebrate Christmas with a wicked heart, am I to be hailed as righteous? Really, to me it seems clear. Whether a Christian chooses to celebrate Christmas comes down to an issue of the heart. If a Christian finds Christmas objectionable, then very simply one should not participate. And if your participation would stumble your brother, then you too should refrain if no other option is left. Jehovah's Witnesses, I address you specifically. For what reasons do you choose not to participate? Are they reasons emanating from a truly Bible-trained conscience and right-hearted objection to practices that you do truly find to be questionable? Or are your reasons decided for you? Is your conscience dictated by the commands of another man and their interpretation? Or consider this, are you stumbling others when you tout your faith with an air of superiority, looking down upon your fellow man? Is this an attitude that Christ would be in support of? Do you use the Bible as a tool of self-reflection, or as a tool to bend others to your way of thinking, inferring that their faith is somehow inferior if it does not match up to your expectations? These are very serious questions to contemplate, and ones that I hope you will give much prayerful thought over. But you know what? Regardless of your conclusion, I wish to extend to you and to all who are listening a Merry Christmas. And as we pass into our next segment, we'll buffet with a musical interlude, Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas by Judy Garland.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be light. Next year all our troubles will be out of sight. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Make the Yuletide gay. Next year all our troubles will be miles away. Once again, as in olden days, happy golden days of yore, faithful friends who were dear to us will be near to us once more. Someday soon we all will be together, if the fates allow. Until then, we'll have to muddle through somehow. So have yourself a merry little Christmas
And we are back to the grind after hearing that that beautiful, beautiful song. You know, psst, 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 let me tell you a secret. I always loved Christmas songs, even as I was a witness. You know, it was it was my guilty pleasure as I went out during the holiday season. A lot of the times I would stop to listen and enjoy a lot of the classics, and when I drove, I would tune into holiday radio stations. Of course, this was usually tainted with a feeling of guilt, because then I thought that true Christians would never listen to such things, and the fact that I did made me deficient somehow. So, now, I don't want to beat a dead horse here. I know we've already covered why I think that the origins of holiday do not necessarily disqualify it as something a Christian should not or would not engage in, but let's cover that just a little bit more. And this time we'll focus on the Watchtower's perspective. There are several reasons in the mind of a witness why Christmas is unchristian. First and foremost on that list, of course, is the reason that Christmas, as they see it, was a melding between pagan Roman customs surrounding the Saturnalia and Christian theology to make it acceptable to a wider variety of people. In essence, they argue that this dilutes and poisons true Christianity, thus disqualifying the holiday's observance. The 12/15/2006 Watchtower has this to say on the subject. Under the subheading Matter of Conjecture, the article considered how the Church arrived at December 25th. It acknowledged, most widely held is the view that the holiday was an intentional Christianization of Saturnalia and other pagan festivals. By assigning Christmas to late December, when people were already accustomed to celebrating, church leaders ensured widespread observance of the Savior's birth. Now, this leads us to another point that Watchtower Corporation focuses on when attempting to invalidate the celebration of Christmas. The point that Watchtower tries to emphasize is that Jesus was not really born in December, nor does the Bible command us to observe his birth. In the article, Is Christmas Truly Christian?, found in the Watchtower of 12/15/92, the organization is quick to cite an outside source, saying, according to the New Encyclopedia Britannica, December 25th, the birthday of Mithra, the Iranian god of light, and the day devoted to the invincible sun, as well as the day after the Saturnalia, was adopted by the Church as Christmas, the Nativity of Christ, to counteract the effects of these festivals. So, the pagan birthday celebration continued with a simple switch in names, from Mithra to Christ. So, basically, these reasons, along with several others, lead Watchtower again to come to the conclusion that no Christian should celebrate or observe this holiday. So, what makes me so certain to the contrary? What makes me, a lowly, vicious, bitter, simple-minded apostate, think that I know more than the almighty gatekeepers of Watchtower Corporation? Well, before I give you my answer, why don't I take you on a journey of logic and reason? Do any of us worship or even think about pagan deities during Christmas? How many of your neighbors have even heard of the name Mithra? Well, not too many, I'd wager. What about revelries? The Watchtower points out in the 12/15/1953 edition that Christmas is selfish because it is a time to gratify fleshly desires. It is a time to condone moral misbehavior. It is a time for revelries, a time when the belly becomes a god and when drunks and gluttons abound. And they've repeated similar sentiments over the years. So, let me ask you, do you like to get drunk at Christmas? It's okay, you can tell me. It's okay. Do you get all the fam together and have y'all selves a little drinking party? Yeah? No? Maybe? A little bit? Tiny? No? No? Really? Okay. Are you a fat drunk? The kind that, absolutely gluts himself at the first opportunity? No? None of that either? Seriously though, these questions and characterizations are ridiculous. Most people I know don't even come close to fitting that bill. Of course, this is irrelevant to Watchtower Corporation. Again, they feel that the origins and practices of some disqualify any participation in the so-called pagan holiday. Just to get back on track, though, remember I had asked why I am so confident that the Watchtower Corporation is wrong and none of those facts or assertions and assumptions should factor into a Christian's decision? Well, I'm still not going to answer the question yet, but I promise this is the last digression. Let's look at a little-known Watchtower victim, and that victim is the meager piñata. Yep, that's right. I bet many of you didn't know that not so very long ago, Watchtower Corporation had it out for the piñata. They write in the 62271 Awake, piñatas also came to be used in connection with Christmas. A modern writer notes, Indians were very fond of theatrical representations in the development of rituals. The friars started to put on theatrical representations in connection with the celebration of the birth of Jesus Christ. Breaking the piñata came to be the final part of such a theatrical representation. It goes on to add, Catholic teachers have placed great significance on the use of the piñata in this religious celebration. They have taught that the piñata represents the devil, or a bad spirit. The fact that the person who tries to break the piñata has his eyes covered indicates that he should have blind faith that will overcome the devil. The articles that are put in the piñata represent the temptations that man has during his life. And breaking the piñata means that he has gained eternal life. And then finally, the article concludes by making this statement. Even though the use of a piñata is popular in some places, there are those who have serious misgivings about the false religious practices connected with it. And this really goes hand in hand with Watchtower logic and assumptions about so many of the holidays, and it's in perfect agreement. Now, why, you probably are wondering, did I find it necessary to drag us all the way to the piñata when we started talking about Christmas? Well, the Watchtower has remained fairly consistent on its view of Christmas. Their view of the piñata, however, has proved to be, shall we say, flexible. It took them 32 years, but they've finally covered the piñata again. This time with a more reasonable, oddly enough, approach. So, before I cite that article, I will now answer the question, why am I so confident the Watchtower Corporation is wrong, and I, a good-for-nothing scumbag, heathen, pagan apostate, am right? Well, the reason, oddly enough, is because Watchtower so lovingly agrees with my conclusion. No, no, I'm serious. I'll show you. In the 9/22/2003 Awake article, The Piñata, an Ancient Tradition, they state, when considering whether... Listen carefully. Okay? Are you ready? Are you at full attention? You are? Good. Okay. When considering whether to include a piñata at a social gathering, Christians should be sensitive to the consciences of others. A main concern is not what the practice meant hundreds of years ago, but how it is viewed today in your area. Understandably, opinions may vary from one place to another, hence it is wise to avoid turning such matters into big issues. Whoa. Chew on that for a minute. Actually, you know what? I'll go ahead and repeat it. A main concern is not what the practice meant hundreds of years ago, but how it is viewed today in your area. Okay. With that simple, probably unnoticed paragraph, they invalidated the basis for their entire teaching on Christmas. According to simple logic that is uncharacteristically displayed in this article, it shows us that it doesn't really matter how Christmas was celebrated thousands of years ago. What matters is how we view it now, how the Christians today see it, how the Christians of today celebrate it, how we know and love Christmas, not how the Romans viewed Christmas, not how early corrupt Christian influences diluted or somehow invalidated that celebration, but how we see it today. Even the Watchtower of 2000, 1215 notes, bear in mind that Christmas traditions may differ according to where you live. They are different from place to place. What may be acceptable for a Christian here may not be acceptable for a Christian there, highlighting the import of the conscience and what role that plays in a Christian's life. You cannot underemphasize that. It's reasonable as Christians for us not to openly celebrate Christmas if we would stumble our brother, just like they note in that paragraph, and just like I noted earlier. You know, it's really comparable, as it's the honorable thing to do not to invite an alcoholic to a bar with you and your friends. It most certainly doesn't mean one can never drink, but bear in mind the feelings of others. That's not only the Christian thing to do, it's the human thing to do. You know, I'm done talking about it. I hope this puts to bed the issue and gives everyone here pause to consider the matter carefully. I can't decide for you whether or not to celebrate. I wouldn't want to. I'm sure that many of you listening now have no problem with the celebration, just as I'm sure that there are some of you who do. This is not the substance of faith. The issue will neither make or break salvation. It's how we act, what's in our hearts, our motivations that demonstrate the substance of faith. You know what? Let's keep the move lively, and again, we'll cut to another Christmas classic. This is one of my favorites. It's The Christmas Song by Nat King Cole. And again, I emphatically wish to all who are listening, including Jehovah's Witnesses, Merry Christmas. And be sure to stay tuned for more. We'll be back.
Chestnuts roasting on an open fire, Jack Frost nipping at your nose, Yuletide carols being sung by a choir, and folks dressed up like Eskimos. Everybody knows a turkey and some mistletoe help to make the season bright. Tiny tots with their eyes all aglow will find it hard to sleep tonight. They know that Santa's on his way. He's loaded lots of toys and goodies on his sleigh, and every mother's child is gonna spy to see if reindeer really know how to fly. And so I'm offering this simple phrase to kids from 1 to 92. Although it's been said many times, many ways, Merry Christmas to you.
And we're back from yet another Christmas classic. And really, what better way to contrast the contented merriment exhibited by that song than with the dismal and frankly morose worldview of Watchtower Corporation, where, mind you, we will bring up yet another frequently used argument against Christmas. They say in the 1215-2004 Watchtower, another disturbing question arises with regard to the nature of Christmas celebrations. If Jesus returned to earth today, what would he think about the rank commercialism of Christmas? He was outraged by money changers and vendors who were taking advantage of a Jewish religious festival to make money. Take these things away from here, he said. Stop making the house of my father a house of merchandise. Clearly, Jesus did not approve of mixing commerce and religion. Many sincere Spanish Catholics express concern about the growing commercial nature of Christmas. Yet, such a trend toward commercialism is probably inevitable in view of the roots of many Christmas practices. Journalist Juan Arias points out, those who, within Christianity, criticize the way Christmas has become paganized and the more devoted to jollity and consumerism than to religion, are generally unaware that even in its origin, the Nativity already incorporated many of the features of the Roman pagan festival of the sun. So, well, as any Jehovah's Witness know, and as certainly I was impressed with growing up, this is one of the major points that Watchtower Corporation repeatedly emphasizes. Commercialism, as they see it, is the embodiment of the season, the meaning of Christmas. They make this opinion clear multiple times. They state in the 1215-2006, modern Christmas abounds in gaudy commercialism. 1215-05, the Christmas season, however attractive it is to some, is marked by crash commercialism. 1215-1994, the Japanese have dropped all pretense of religion and turned Christmas into a strictly commercial operation. It adds a major celebration that's heavy on the commercialism and rather light on the religious aspect. 1215-86. I found that some people are annoyed because commercialism rules the Christmas scene in Japan. 1215-81. Many, even today, despite the rank commercialism of Christmas, still feel sentimental and nostalgic during the Christmas season. You know, that's a little bit depressing. Is that what Christmas has been reduced to? A meaningless season devoted to greed and self-advancement? Honestly, though, you know, anyone who celebrated it, either knows or should know otherwise. Christmas is what you make it to be. In this special holiday contains the most profound opportunity of joy and contentedness if you seize that opportunity. Anything can be turned into a commercial opportunity. Christmas is not unique in this regard. Do merchants take advantage of the season? Well, yeah, they do. Salesmen, as one might think would be obvious, sell things. Again, this isn't a phenomenon that's restricted to the Christmas season. Summer, for instance. They sell slides, pool toys, jump ropes, water guns, ice cream, lemonade, popsicles, sunglasses, sun lotion, hand fans, bicycles, garden tools, fertilizers, and countless other items using the summer season as a gimmick to create incentive for buying. This isn't unusual. It's what merchants do. It's what they're designed to do. Now, does the increased sale of summer-related products mean that the spirit of summer somehow loses its meaning? Does the, quote, rank commercialism exhibited by Super Soaker Corporation or Slip and Slide Incorporated take away from the joy that their products imbue? No, not at all. And it also can be and should be stated that children without fancy toys in summer can be as happy as the children who do. Because summer isn't about the toys. It's about enjoying your youth while you still can. And personally, I wish I would have taken greater advantage of that than when I did, but that's another subject. Why should Christmas be any different than that? Gifts are not what make the season. They're only a very small part. You know, Jehovah's Witnesses, you would learn much about the spirit of the Christmas season simply by watching many of the Christmas classics that resonate with us in our society. For a reason, mind you. They are examples of what the season means. Its true spirit, not commercialism. You know, let's roll a clip from How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and you might see what I'm talking about.
Christmas Day is in our grasp, so long as
But this sound wasn't sad. What? This sound sounded glad. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet, ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. He puzzled and puzzled till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville, they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And then the true meaning of Christmas came through, and the Grinch found the strength of 10 Grinches, plus 2. And now that his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light. With a smile in his soul, he descended Mount Comfort.
Oh, man, one of my all-time favorite Christmas specials. And who couldn't see the value in those words? As a witness, or ex-witness, I should say, they contain special meaning for me because they taught me the true meaning of Christmas. And as I said before, and as was taught to me by this special, it isn't found in a box or a bag or with tinsel or wrappings or ornaments or tags. The governing body, actually is a lot like the Grinch. They seem to miss the spirit that they're surrounded by each year. instead of seeing the warmth and the feeling on display, they reason it away by saying it's all about the gifts or about pagan gods. But they're really doing themselves a great disservice. As an example, growing up in my congregation, Christmas time was the most miserable time to be a witness. The cheer and glad tidings wished to us were, well, really, they fell upon deaf ears, and they were steadfastly refused and shouted down. The congregation would grumble and gripe about the pagans that they were surrounded by, and they would do their best to convince themselves of how happy they were, but truly they were the most miserable of anyone. I remember going out in service on Christmas Day, and, I couldn't understand it at the time, but oddly enough, disturbing people during their family time and telling them that they're engaging in a pagan celebration doesn't exactly engender a spirit of cheer in the householder. I was bringing down misery upon myself. So I would trudge through the snow and plod through hours of this woeful experience until I went home absolutely drained, again on the happiest day of the year. While everyone else relaxed and shared in the quiet, beautiful, happy celebration, as a witness, I knew that I could never share in that. A truly lonely, depressing feeling. It's quite sad. I missed the point. Here I was going door to door trying to spread good news, preaching about the teachings of Jesus, so I thought, but all the while I was the miserable one, and in turn trying to dismantle other people's happiness by demolishing their beliefs and spreading my own misery. Is that the Christian way? I think not. Christmas, of course, is a primarily Christian celebration. Jehovah's Witnesses is not the point of your ministry ostensibly to spread the good news of Christ? Then why on earth would you be offended by this holiday? It is the most publicized, highest density preaching campaign of the year. It's a prime opportunity to share the good news that you miss out on. I find it, due to my experiences and due to my witness upbringing, I still find it difficult to exactly express what I mean. And I know you yourselves are quite lost, like I was, bereft of understanding and amiss to the meaning of Christmas. Well, turning to Christmas specials once again, what if Charlie Brown and his friends helped you to understand, like they helped me?
Isn't there anyone who knows what Christmas is all about?
Sure, Charlie Brown. I can tell you what Christmas is all about. Lights, please. And there were in the same country shepherds, abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them. And the glory of the Lord shone round about them. And they were sore afraid. And the angel said unto them, Fear not. For behold, I bring you tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you. Ye shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host praising God, and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men. That's what Christmas is all about, Charlie Brown.
You see, you really can have a holiday that's about Jesus Christ and emphasizes his importance in the Christian life. Whether or not you choose to make it into that and celebrate it that way is a personal decision, one that I hope you, as a Christian, will make. It's not about the gifts. It's not about the commercialism. It's about faith in our Savior, Jesus Christ. I hope you share those sentiments with me and also proceed to share them in turn with others.
For behold, I bring you tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you.
Linus is right. I won't let all this commercialism ruin my Christmas.
And please, don't let it ruin your Christmas either. Well, you know what? I think that about wraps it up for tonight. I hope you've enjoyed the broadcast for this evening as much as I have, but before I go, I do want to share just a few more closing words, and then we'll part. I didn't come to do this broadcast to denigrate or to insult. I haven't come with anger or bitterness. More than anything else, I have come with pity. I once was a Jehovah's Witness. I know what it's like. The pain, the suffering, the loneliness, above all else. But I want to let you know, those who are wandering and struggling, that there is a larger world out there. There is a world beyond Watchtower Corporation. And there are people like me who want to help you. There was a time when leaving the organization literally meant leaving everything behind. And it still does to a large extent. As any witness knows, thought is not tolerated. But you have a support network of men and women who've gone through the same things, and some who've been through far, far worse, and trekked through far darker places. We are all here for witnesses who want to leave, who know that something isn't quite right. And now during the Christmas season especially, it is the job of apostates everywhere to extend a helping hand. Don't you wish someone had done the same for you? The lesson to be learned from the broadcast this evening, the lesson that I've strived to imbue, is whether Christmas is good or bad, all comes down to how you make it. And I hope that everyone within the reach of my voice takes that to heart. Merry Christmas to all, and to all, a good night.
Just like the ones I used to know, where the treetops glisten and children listen to hear sleigh bells in the snow. Dreaming of a white Christmas, with every Christmas card I write. May your days be merry and bright, and may all your Christmases be white. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know, where
the treetops glisten,
and children listen to hear
sleigh bells in the snow.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas with every Christmas card I write.
May your days be merry and bright, and may all your Christmases be white.
Thank you very much, Anondude2, for sharing your thoughts on the Christmas holiday, on the Watchtower's view of the Christmas holiday, and on why we, as former Jehovah's Witnesses and even current Jehovah's Witnesses, should perhaps rethink some of the things that we've been taught by the Watchtower about the holiday. I do have some thoughts I'd like to share that sort of relate to what Anondude2 has shared with us this evening. But before I get to a little bit of commentary, let's hear a song. I promised some of my friends on and people who follow this show on Facebook that I would sing. And so here we go. I promised I'd sing on Facebook, and so the first song from Mad Sweeney this evening is Winter Wonderland. Let's give a listen. Sleigh bells ring, are you listening? In the lane, snow is glistening. A beautiful sight, we're happy tonight, walking in a winter wonderland. Gone away is the bluebird, here to stay is a new bird. You sing a love song as we go along, walking in a winter wonderland. In the meadow we can build a snowman and pretend that he is Parson Brown. He'll say, are you married? We'll say, no, man, but you can do the job when you're in town. Later on we'll conspire as we dream by the fire and face unafraid the plans that we made, walking in a winter wonderland. Build a snowman and pretend that he is Parson Brown. He'll say, are you married? We'll say, no, man, but you can do the job when you're in town. Later on we'll conspire as we dream by the fire. We'll face unafraid the plans that we made, walking in a winter wonderland. Walking in a winter wonderland. Walking in a winter wonderland. Well, that was my first foray into singing a Christmas song and recording it. I hope you enjoyed Winter Wonderland. I'd like to thank again Anondude2 for his discussion earlier on Christmas, and I'd like to address a little bit about why the Watchtower might be, what might be their motivation in doing the things they do when it comes to holidays. Why this stance that, to an outsider looking in and using rational thinking ability, a stance that's obviously hypocritical by allowing celebrations of certain things, such as wedding anniversaries, but not birth anniversaries or birthdays. Why allow pagan things such as wedding rings and white wedding dresses, and not allow other things that had ancient pagan origins, such as many of the Christmas traditions, such as the tree or the exchange of gifts and things such as that? Why? What's their point? Do they really believe that they're following God's will, following the Bible? I think perhaps most Jehovah's Witnesses believe that. I'm not sure that the organization leadership necessarily believes that. I'd like to share a few verses from the Bible. I'll use the New World Translation, which is the Bible that was written and published by the Watchtower Society and the one that Jehovah's Witnesses used. I'm going to read Romans chapter 14, and I'm going to select some verses out of there, verse 5 and 6 and 13 and 14, but the whole chapter is on basically the same theme. I just don't want to read the whole thing to you over the air. But these verses will make a point that I'd like to discuss. Starting in Romans 14, verse 5, it says, "One man judges one day as above another, another man judges one day as all others. Let each man be fully convinced in his own mind. He who observes the day observes it to Jehovah. Also he who eats to Jehovah, for he gives thanks to God. And he who does not eat to Jehovah, and yet gives thanks to God. Therefore, let us not be judging one another any longer, but rather make this your decision, not to put before a brother a stumbling block or a cause for tripping. I know, and I am persuaded in the Lord Jesus, that nothing is defiled in itself. Only where a man considers something to be defiled, to him it is defiled." Now, the reason I'm pointing out these scriptures is that it goes along with what Anondude2 shared with us earlier about how really it is up to the individual conscience, scripturally, to decide what holidays to observe, what days not to observe, what things are appropriate to eat, what food items are not appropriate to eat. And yet, the Watchtower has stepped in and decided those things for what they call true Christians. And when somebody reads the magazine and sees that phrase, true Christians, if they're not a Jehovah's Witness and they read that, they may think, oh, yes, that's me, I'm a true Christian. But no, not in the view of the Watchtower Society, not in the view of Jehovah's Witnesses. In the view of Jehovah's Witnesses and the Watchtower Society, only they are true Christians. And this gets to the real reason why these things are opposed, why the Christmas holiday is opposed by the Watchtower Society. It is because it differentiates them as a religion that calls itself Christian in a very special and unique way from all other Christian religions. It really is about reinforcing that self-righteous pride, that us versus them attitude in their followers, in Jehovah's Witnesses, so that unlike the other religions and denominations of the Christian faith that can share this holiday with one another, they're set apart. Jehovah's Witnesses are set apart as unique. And as we've discussed many times on this show, that us versus them, that unique sort of separation from everybody else makes them feel a little bit special. And it makes them feel special, they think, in the eyes of God, despite what the scripture I just read says. And a really good illustration of how absurd this really is that of the piñata that Anondude2 brought out. When I was a small child, piñatas were a big no-no. And then, now they're not. They're not a big deal depending on where and when you live. Christmas, however, no. We can't ever give in on Christmas, because too much Jesus in the congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses would make them too much like other religions, and they do not want to be like other religions. Cults need that uniqueness to give their members a sense of pride, a sense of being in this small, special group that does things differently from everybody else. And you know what? The Bible says you're going to be hated for it. And well, you know, I don't know that Jehovah's Witnesses are particularly hated. They're more just kind of looked at as oddballs, people who have weird ideas about holidays and about certain medical treatments like blood transfusions. I don't think Jehovah's Witnesses are hated, but they're trying their best to drum that up in the minds of their members. So even if it doesn't really happen, even if they're not really any more true Christians than anybody else, even if they're not really persecuted any more than anybody else, they think they are. And by believing they are, they believe they're special, they believe they're unique, they believe they're quote-unquote true Christians, Jehovah's Witnesses, God's people, and so the Watchtower organization has accomplished their mission, which is to retain membership. The biggest goal of a cult is numbers, because numbers means keeping more people in, adding people when you can continue to grow your base of power, your base of money, and your base of just perpetuating your organization as a successful entity. And so that's, I think, the reason why the Watchtower Society chose to oppose Christmas. And I say chose because the organization didn't always oppose Christmas. If you're watching and not just listening, and you look on your screen right now, I'm showing a photograph of Bethel at Watchtower Society headquarters, of them celebrating Christmas. And I believe the year down there says 1926. They celebrated Christmas for the first half century of their existence, the Watchtower Society. And then a new leader took over and decided, hey, I think this would be a good marketing strategy to differentiate ourselves further with this new name, Jehovah's Witnesses, which didn't come along till the 30s, and this new sort of separation from the rest of Christendom by stopping this Christmas celebration, by no longer using a cross, either personally or on any of our literature, things like that. This differentiating, further widening that divide, that us versus them, between this little cult and the rest of the Christian world. And so they've been quite successful at it. Retention in the witnesses is not as good as many other religions, but it works for them. Apparently they're happy with how well they're doing, at least for now. When we see more and more drastic changes, we'll know that they're not satisfied with their mode of operations at the moment. I have a couple of more comments, but before that, let's go on to our next song before I forget to play them all together. And this one is Jingle Bell Rock. Enjoy. Jingle bell, jingle bell rock. Jingle bells swing and jingle bells ring. Snowing and blowing are bushels of fun. Now the jingle hop has begun. Jingle bell, jingle bell rock. Jingle bells chime in jingle bell time. Dancing and prancing in Jingle Bell Square. In the frosty air, what a bright time. It's the right time to rock the night away. Jingle bell time is a swell time to go riding in a one-horse sleigh. Giddy up, jingle horse, pick up your feet. Jingle around the clock. Mix and a mingle in the jingling feet. That's the Jingle Bell Rock.
Jingle bell, jingle bell rock. Jingle bell chime and jingle bell time. Dancing and prancing in Jingle Bell Square. In the frosty air.
What a bright time, it's the right time to rock the night away. Jingle bell time is a swell time to go riding in a one-horse sleigh. Giddy up, jingle horse, pick up your feet. Jingle around the clock. A mix and a mingle in the jingling feet. That's the jingle bell, that's the jingle bell, that's the Jingle Bell Rock. Well, that was the Jingle Bell Rock. And I think it's interesting that the organization, the Watchtower Society, is so firm about this particular set of doctrines. A lot of their ideas are, I guess, fungible. They sort of... everybody knows that these ideas are, quote-unquote, pending new light. For instance, the generation concept. Nobody particularly buys into what they're saying right now about the generation because it's changed so much that they know it's just going to probably change again. But Christmas has been solidly opposed for now, I don't know, 70, 80 years, something like that. I don't have the exact date, but it's been quite some time. And so you're looking at something that's entrenched in the religion, and the ostensible reason, there's several that Anondude2 shared, but one is because the traditions are pagan. And I'd like to talk a little bit about the pagan origins of Christmas and why they are important. And I don't mean important to avoid, I mean just why they came about and why they're important. As most people, I think, know, winter starts on December 21st, I guess, 22nd maybe. I always kind of, is it the last day of fall or the first day of winter? Anyway, late December, fall ends, autumn, and winter begins. And at that time, the time of the winter solstice, the days stop getting shorter, the nights stop getting longer, and it starts going the other direction again. Days start increasing in length again, night starts decreasing in length again. And for people centuries, millennia even ago, this is a hugely significant event in their lives every year. To have the seasons change and turn. Now, I know for many people, it's at this time that the weather starts getting worse and worse. It starts getting really bad. And that fall is just kind of a lead up to the real punch of winter weather. But these people knew from their observations of the sky and of the stars and the sun and the moon, that days were getting longer, and that this was something to celebrate, because once again, a few months from now, things would begin to grow. Food would grow, they would be able to plant, their livestock would have fresh grass to eat again, and the world would keep turning, and their lives would go on, and winter would just be a passing phase that they survived once again. And so this is cause for celebration in these ancient peoples. And so they developed these traditions, these celebrations. And yes, they developed their gods that they credited for these things, for the renewal of the sun, for the new growth of the springtime, for the end of the darkening, lengthening nights of the fall-autumn season. And so, yes, these were pagan gods that were credited with this. And yet, many of these pagan gods' stories, if you read the details, are a whole lot like the Christmas story that we have not only passed down traditionally, but in the Bible itself. So, I think it's more than a bit hypocritical to condemn one set of myths and stories and not another. And like we read in the book of Romans, it's pretty clear the Apostle Paul felt the same way. Let people decide what they're going to celebrate. Let people enjoy the things that they want to enjoy. Don't stumble about it. Don't think that they're evil, we're good. Like we talked about on the last Cult Free Radio show, social categorization theory. Once you understand the natural tendency to group people as us and them, then you can fight that tendency when it's necessary and when it's appropriate. So let's not be judging one another for what we celebrate or don't celebrate. If people don't want to celebrate, that's fine, as long as they don't expect others to be just like them. And so, I think, thanks to Anondude2, we've covered the topic of the Watchtower and Jehovah's Witnesses and the Christmas holiday. I'd like to thank Anondude2 again. Please search for him on YouTube. It's A-N-O-N, Anon, short for anonymous, Dude, D-U-D-E, 2, the number 2. All one word, Anondude2. Search for him on YouTube and listen and look at his videos. He's got several up there. And I'll try to get the Cult Free Radio shows up there a little faster than I have. Several of them are up there already as well. On YouTube, I'm Mad Sweeney 1914. Or you can just search Cult Free Radio. You'll find us. Now, our next Cult Free Radio show will be in January. I don't have an exact date. It'll probably be the second Saturday, maybe the third. I can't commit to one or the other yet. So please look for an announcement on the exact date on our Facebook page. And don't forget to like our Facebook page. I would really appreciate if you would do that. We're trying to get more and more people to listen to Cult Free Radio because I think we really enjoy the interaction with the friends that I've made through Cult Free Radio and through Facebook, through the Facebook page, through the different message board sites online. So join us on Facebook, Cult Free Radio. For the next show that I mentioned coming in January, I'm working on a couple different interviews, and these may both be on the same show, or depending on their length, I may get two different shows from the two different interviews. One is with a longtime ex-Jehovah's Witness who's really had good success in getting active witnesses to think about some of the important questions, the ones that lead them to think for themselves and to start down the path of mental freedom from the cult. And the other interview is with someone who for the past several months has been surveying Jehovah's Witnesses and former Jehovah's Witnesses, and we're going to discuss with him the motivations for creating this survey, the present results that he's gathered so far, and where he expects the online survey of Jehovah's Witnesses to go next. So, I'd like to wish everybody listening a Merry Christmas, a great New Year, and please tune back into Cult Free Radio in January 2012. And also, listen to our back shows. We've been doing this since last April. This is the 12th Cult Free Radio show. Check us out on www.x-jw.com for the MP3s that you can download to your iPod. We also have several of our shows are on YouTube. Not all of them yet, unfortunately. I'm working on that. But they can all be reached through the Ustream channel, every show, as well as through the Facebook page. And the MP3s are also all available on xjw.com. So give us a listen. Come back in January. Have a happy New Year. And good night. I will close with one more song. And this is Happy Christmas. Happy Christmas, everybody.
So this is Christmas, and what have you done? Another year over, a new one just begun. And so this is Christmas, I hope you have fun. The near and the dear ones, the old and the young. A very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Let's hope it's a good one without any fear. So this is Christmas, for weak and for strong, for rich and for poor ones. The world is so wrong. And so happy Christmas, for black and for white, for yellow and red ones. Let's stop all the fight. A very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Let's hope it's a good one without any fear. And so this is Christmas, and what have we done? Another year over, a new one just begun. And so this is Christmas, I hope you have fun. The near and the dear one, the old and the young. A very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Let's hope it's a good one without any fear. What is over if you want it? War is over now. Happy Christmas! Happy Christmas! Happy Christmas! Happy Christmas! Happy Christmas, everybody.